Hello and welcome back to day 9 of Adventures in Farm Hunting, round 2. So now that I finally made my decision on the farm, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted from my shoulders. So although a weight's been lifted from my shoulders now that I've made my decision at least, unfortunately we're not in the clear just yet. And that is because here in Portugal, the seller has the right to change their mind pretty much until the very last moment when the keys are handed over. So you're not in the clear until your name is on the deed and those keys are in your hand. So if I'm not seeming really overly excited about the whole thing, this is why, because I first have to get through the next 2 months. And hopefully by then I have a deed and keys in hand, and then I can do a little dance of joy, I guess, because then the farm will be officially mine. So yesterday I went to meet up with the agency and to sign some, well, the reservation papers at least, just to say that the farm is reserved and that I do intend to buy the farm, and pay over that deposit, of course. So working with an agency is very different to my last experience, that's for sure. There's a lot more legalities, there's a lot more paperwork, which I loved. And they also informed me that if the seller decides to pull out, they have to pay double the deposit back to me. So typically the higher the deposit, the least likely the seller is to pull out, because they have to literally pay double. My deposit payment was 5,000 euros, which I think was pretty fair. And that obviously keeps me in check as well, because that's not something I wish to lose. So the process from here is a little bit interesting. So I asked this agency whether they had all the documentation for the farm ready to go, so that I don't have to wait months and months and months for this transaction to go through. Although they have the documentation, there seems to be more than one person that has to sign things off. I think it's a family of 3 or 4 people that need to sign it off, with the mom being the primary owner of the farm, but her children also need to agree that they're happy to sign this farm over and to sell this farm. So one of the kids, I think, is going in for an operation or something like that, so they're going to be out of action for 3 weeks and can only sign the documents at that time. So what the agents are doing today and tomorrow, I guess, is trying to at least get most of the documentation together to create the official offer to purchase. And if they can get everything together for the offer to purchase documents, I can sign that whilst I'm here. So today was meant to be the day that I check out of the Airbnb, but the host has kindly let me stay another day or 2, obviously paid for, just so that I can see if I can get the documents done. I think it will be easier to do that in person, so that they've got my original signature. They can do that remotely as well, so they did offer to email the paperwork to me, although that just makes it a little bit more tricky, because original documentation will need to be scanned and then sent back to them. So if I can avoid that, I think I will. I would rather stay and see if they can get the documents together today or tomorrow, and then sign while I'm here. So they have put a 60-day clause in for the transaction to be completed, the agents. This is just so that things can get sped up. Obviously the person going in for a surgery is going to be out of action for 3 weeks, so that already takes us, pretty much 30 days, another month into this process before things can get done. If things can happen sooner, they said that they will try and do that. But worst case scenario, it looks like in the next 60 days, so in 2 months time, I should have a deed in my hand, keys in my hand, and ready to start the renovations on the farm. The waiting is going to be the hardest part. Oh, one step that I forgot to mention as part of this sales process in any farm in Portugal is that they first have to offer the farm again to all the neighboring farms. Now, the farm that I bought is a corner plot, so it only has 2 neighboring farms. Although they're fully aware that the farm has been put up for sale, they have declined already when the agents went to them to mention that the farm is for sale. But they have to do due diligence and go back to the farmers. I think they have to sign a piece of paper to say that they decline wanting the option to buy the farm next door, because all neighboring farms have first option on the farm next door before it can sell to anyone else. So that is another process and documentation that we have to wait for. If that is all clear, we can sign the offer to purchase and then proceed down that line. Once all the people have signed the offer to purchase, then we can start the transfer process, and I will need to physically come back here to make an appearance at the deeds office to sign in person for that. Before the deeds office, lawyers also get involved to make sure that all the paperwork is legal, that the article is legal, and that there is nothing that they haven't disclosed that can come back to haunt me later down the line. So the seller has an attorney, and I could typically decide to just use the same attorney for the whole process. But it is a lot safer for anyone looking to buy to rather appoint their own attorney or notary to make sure that all the documents are correct, that everything is in check, that nothing can break this contract now during this process or later on when you think that you own the farm and maybe you don't. So I do have my own attorney that I'm gonna get hold of, and so that she can make sure that everything is in my favor, of course, so that she isn't biased, I should say, in terms of the seller, because that could possibly happen as well. So it's quite a big process. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved in this, but I'll take you guys every step of the way as I learn things, because there's a lot of things that I don't know yet about this process. It's the first time that I'm buying in Portugal, of course, or in a foreign country. I only know how things work in South Africa. So as I learn things and as I discover things, I will share that process with you guys as well. So what I'm going to do for the next 2 months while I'm waiting for everything to happen is I need to start looking at contractors that can help me with the renovation process. I've already started drafting a little plan of what it is that I want to renovate and what I want to do with the property, and I'll share that with you guys down the line as well. There is asbestos on the property, so I will also need to contract a official asbestos removal company to clear that in the correct way and make sure that all harmful fibers have been removed from the property as well. And then, but that's luckily the warehouse section, so that's not the house section, luckily. But I still need to replace all the warehouse sheeting that was asbestos into maybe a zinc roof, just for now, whatever the cheapest is, to just replace that roof sheeting. Something interesting that came up yesterday in our discussion as well is that the seller was very concerned about what's going to happen with the animals, because they can't take them anywhere else. And there's a lot of bunnies, guys. There's, you know, bunnies. So there's a lot. So she was mostly concerned about that, and she was worried that in the next, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to want them to remove the animals. So I said, no, of course, that's fine. For the next 2 months, they can still tend to the farm. It doesn't belong to me. I don't have access in any case for the next 2 months until I have the deed and the keys. So they must look after the animals for the next 2 months, as they have been doing, and obviously the property as they have been doing for the next 2 months. So very quick in summary, what I've learned so far is, of this process at least, is that when you like a property, you throw a number out to the agent takes whatever that figure is to the seller. If they agree on the number, then the next part of the process can start. So after that step, what happened with me is I went to the agency's office to sign the document of deposit and to register that I have paid the deposit as well. The next step is that they have to offer the farmlands to the neighboring farms owners to buy. If they decline, we can sign the offer to purchase. And then we continue with the next part of the process. Good morning. It is our last day in Castelo Branco. We only needed to stay an extra night yesterday as the agent called me. Miraculously, they had all the paperwork together and I could go and sign the offer to purchase or the promissory contract yesterday in their offices. It is a beautiful day today. Blue skies to send us off. But I can see some rain clouds in the distance, so I'm sure that that is still coming. The dogs are very excited because we are packed and pretty much ready to go and head back to Cascais. So it's always such a bittersweet moment to leave this beautiful place. But I have to come back here in a month or two to come and sign the deeds document in any case for the farm. So the contract yesterday was quite interesting, and now I understand why things take so long, because and this is also why the agents were so surprised that they had everything together, because so the owner has to sign, and if you're married or you have children, everyone needs to sign. So effectively the owner is the mother. Her husband sadly passed away, and that's why they were selling the farm. So she had to sign for herself on his behalf, and then they have 4 children, all of them married, so all of the children need to sign as well as their wives to legalize this document and say that yes, there was no contention, they were all in agreement to sell. So of course they needed to get hold of all of their siblings, the spouses, the mother, and they needed to get all of the details of the people, i.e. their names, their full names, their date of birth, etc, 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 their current addresses and whatnot needs to be included in this document. But they managed to get all of that in 24 hours, which is a miracle pretty much. And I could go and sign the promissory document, and which is basically the offer to purchase here. It seems like they're all motivated to sell and get this process done. So hopefully this is not going to be a very long process, because things can take 6 months on average usually with such purchases. But it looks like things may move smoothly. Let's hope so. Yeah, so I wanted to give you guys a quick tally. So this was obviously our farm adventures of round 2 to come and check things out in Castelo Branco. In the first round, I had to write it down. In the first round, we saw 16 properties. I made 3 offers. 1 was accepted, but 1 fell through. This round, I saw 14 properties. I made 1 offer. 1 was accepted, and obviously that one is still in progress. So in a total of what I've seen to get to this point, I would say it is about 30 properties, 4 offers total, 2 accepted, 1 fell through, and 1 in progress. So although it's bittersweet to leave here today, we're also happy being here. We'll be back not very long from now to come and sort out the final documentation and hopefully collect the keys.